In this video, I've found the solution to my G9 problem, and I've made up some time with a couple of long-lost friends. Join me. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds guy, and in this video I've made up with a couple of long lost friends, and I'll let you know who they are soon, so keep watching. However, first of all, I found the solution at last to my G9 problem. Now before I start, I'm going to switch the comments off on this video, so please don't worry about comments. I've seen so many comments, and I do love your comments. Thank you very much for posting comments up to now on the previous videos. But what I'm not wanting to do is start another minefield of battles between this, that and the other. This is what I've found on mine, and this is what I'm going to stick to. So thank you very much for all the advice. Some people were very close to the mark, some people way off the mark, but it doesn't really matter because the vast majority were giving me such fantastic constructive advice taken from the viewpoint of what they'd seen on my videos, because of course this is always it's third hand, you know. I'm telling you something, but it's third hand from when it was originally. It's sort of a Chinese whispers. By the time it gets to you, the story's changed somewhat from what happened on the day. And a lot of you based your replies and comments on what I'd said or what you'd heard me say, because again, interpretation changes. But you'd given me constructive comments, and I really do appreciate that. I did say in a couple of videos ago that I had a certain amount of very unconstructive comments. Each to their own. I can't really stop those sort of people. So to those, well, yeah, move on. However, I'm going to switch the comments off on this one because I don't need any more comments. But I did do a couple of things on this, and I was going to do a proper video, but to tell you the truth, I haven't been well. I've got, I suffer from a thing called diverticulitis, and I've been suffering from that the last couple of days. I've been in somewhat agony down in the stomach region, and that stopped me from getting out. So I do apologise for not putting the better videos out. But I did manage last week to take along my G9 and also my AM1 Mark II to the same venue that I'd shot the shoot which started all this conversation off. But before I did that, I had a little bit of a test at home. I set the camera up on a tripod, I pointed it at a white surface, and I basically went through various ISO settings, and I had a couple of little objects in between so that I could actually get some highlights and things off it. I had just basic, well, top of another tripod was one, the camera was sitting in there, but the background was mainly white. And I had some light introduced from the side, and basically what I did is I brought that light down in intensity, but the light itself, the reflector, could actually be seen in the screen. So it was a similar sort of idea to what happened in the original building. And there was a huge difference between the G9 and the AM1 Mark II for noise. Now please don't go away, run off after hearing the rest of it, because this is important. You know, this is part of the story. There was a huge difference. The G9 was considerably noisier, which really rather shocked me. And I looked around all the settings on the camera. I couldn't see anything particularly different. I'd taken identical photos at identical, well, with exactly the same lens on, because I swapped the lenses over, the same distance, the same lighting conditions. As I adjusted the lighting down, I took note of where I was adjusting it to percentage wise on the light, because I was using my my LED light with a softbox on, so I could actually adjust it to a set percentage on that. I did all sorts of things in my back office to try and make them as evenly as possible. So I took the M1 Mark II and the G9, and at every ISO, the G9 was noticeably worse than the AM1 Mark II. Now that concerned me because, for one thing, AM1 Mark II I bought used. The G9 I bought brand new, and now they've had a hard life, now they've had a particularly rough life. And that did bring me into the idea that somebody had said, was it faulty? Well, I couldn't see any reason why it was faulty. But there was a noticeable difference in noise. The other thing I did was I shot in RAW and JPEG, and I looked at the difference between the RAW and the JPEG, and on both of those cameras, the noise disappears on JPEG. So there is obviously quite a bit of noise suppression inside the camera taking place. So If you're just shooting shots and you're quite happy with the exposure range, JPEGs, great. You can't do much with them to alter them too far outside the bounds afterwards, but JPEGs gave incredibly good results, and they were just about noise free and very, very good quality. I also decided that I was going to take these back the next day to the venue where I'd been to, as I say. But this experiment really perplexed me, and I sat down for an hour or two afterwards. And I went through every single setting on that G9 to see what was there, and I couldn't see anything particularly wrong in it. I tried switching the camera off, I tried putting a different battery on, I tried doing a reset, and still didn't get any better. And the only thing I did in the end was I decided I'd had enough. And from an electronics background, I come from an electronics background. I was a radar engineer for many years in the military, and I come from a component level electronics background in my early days. There is an argument to be made for letting things discharge fully, for letting systems have no power on for quite a while, because capacitors will hold a charge. And what I decided to do after that shoot in my office was to take the battery out of the camera totally. I left it, I took the camera out, I took the battery out, but before I did that, I did another complete reset on the camera. But then I took the battery out and left it without the battery in for probably somewhere around about 18 hours. I didn't have time to test it again on the white sheets on that. But then I took that, the G9 and the EM1 Mark II, along the same venue. No people there, but there were still tables laid out, so I managed to get sort of the shots of the cutlery and the cups and saucers as I'd stood in the previous one. Unfortunately, the light conditions weren't quite as terrifically bright outside, but that didn't seem to make much of a difference. But the results were almost identical. The noise, still noticeable on both. You can't get away from noise. And whatever you do, there is always some noise on these things, especially when you're zooming in and really pixel peeping. But the noise levels on RAW photographs, this is RAW, on the EM1 Mark II and the G9, I couldn't really tell any difference between the two. I then went back and just did a couple of test shots. I didn't have time to do the full test shot in the back room against the white sheet. And this time I just had a camera to put in the way. I didn't have anything else, and the lighting was already there from last night. So I did that, and the problem was gone. The G9 and the EM1 Mark II were almost identical. So my only summation on this, and I said I'd be very open with you on this, it's possibly been finger trouble with me in the past. I may have set it to something which I wasn't aware of. There may be some setting I wasn't aware of in the camera itself. But something has stuck in that camera when I've been setting things in the past, and it hasn't cleared. It's caused noise, and that noise has stayed in the way that the camera takes the shots. Don't know what it was, can't tell you what it was at all, except for the fact that a full reset and leaving the battery out for a considerable length of time to let the circuits discharge, all the capacitors in the circuits discharge, seems to have done the job. So that's the top and bottom of it. I've got a very happily working G9, which then brings me back onto the original video on this. Should I look at full frame? Well, yes and no. Yes, because when I've looked back through my shots, when I took them on my Canons, the 5D2, 5D3, the 1DS3, when I looked at those shots, they are noticeably less in noise, and I do find them a more pleasing image when I'm pixel peeping. When I'm going in to close on 200% zooming in. The reality is, when do we ever do that? So yes, I take some criticism when people were saying about, well, you know, you're going overboard on this. But if I'm shooting for somebody else, if I'm doing a shot for somebody else, I want everything to be as good as I possibly can. For myself, for pleasing images, for me, I'm happy to take an awful lot less quality and be unbelievably happy with it. But there is a noticeable difference between full frame and micro four thirds in the noise and just in the quality of the image. However, is it worth £2 to get a new camera? No, it's not. Would I then go out and hire a new camera to do a shoot now? No, I wouldn't. because what I've found is by resetting this G9 to what it should be, and also by knowing how good the EM1 Mark II is, I don't need to. So thanks to everybody who gave me all the fantastic advice. I really did appreciate it. I won't be jumping ship. I'm not paid by Lumix, as some people have said. I am allowed to shoot more than one camera system. It's not like having one woman in my life and having an affair with somebody else. This is actually allowed. A polygamous relationship with my camera is socially acceptable, even though some people may think it's not. So I can actually go off and shoot different formats if I want to. Sorry to upset some people. However, my main camera system, oh sorry, you'll hear some noise in the background, it's pouring down the rain. So my main camera system is still Micro Four Thirds. It will remain Micro Four Thirds for the foreseeable future, while they're still sticking in some fantastic cameras. Right, I think that's the G9 story put to bed. However, that then brings me on to meeting up with a couple of old friends. And although it's been pouring today, for the last couple of days when I have been able to get out, because as I say I haven't been too well, but the last couple of days when I have been able to go out, I decided I was going to go to the opposite end of the scale, away from the G9 and the EM1 Mark II, or M1s, or whatever it is. I don't care about the high end. I decided I was going to go a little bit back in time into something a little bit simpler, and just see if I can do that thing which I keep on saying at the end, and having fun with my photos. And I have had fun with my photos. I'm going to do a proper sort of thing. As I say, I haven't really had the time to do it. I'm not finished doing all the shots yet. But I took out these two very old friends, which I've reviewed both on the channel in the past. This is my GX1. One of the very first Micro Four Thirds cameras I got. In fact, I actually got this and my OM5. No, my EM5 Mark 1, EM5, not an OM5, too new. My EM5 Mark 1 and this GX1 on the same day. And if you remember, my EM5 Mark 1 didn't have a lens, so to get a cheap and cheerful lens just to test out the concept of Micro Four Thirds, this had a 40 to 42. So I bought the camera just to get the lens. And in the end, the lens is gone, but the camera's still here. And it's a great little bit of kit. The other friend is my 25mm, no. I'm not doing too well today. I told you I'm not well. My 14mm f2.5. 14mm f2.5. Yeah, my 14mm f2.5 prime lens. So that's this here. No AVF. Remember, just a rear screen. It's had a protector on, and the protector was starting to lift, so I lifted it off, and I've got a sort of mottled finish on it. You'll see what I mean. I've got to try and get rid of that. It's on the surface. But I've been going around taking photos with this in the middle of town and out at the airport. And do you know what? I've had a thoroughly enjoyable time with it. It's so discreet. It's so tiny. And if you really want to keep it discreet, you can even take the wrist strap off. But most of the time, the wrist strap just stays on. The camera's there. And it's just such a pleasure to use. It really is. So I've been out and about with this. Just snapping away, enjoying myself. Easy to use, easy to put in the pocket. I mean, very easy to put in the pocket. It is so small. I mean, look how thin that is. It doesn't even extend. If I put my 12 to 36, no, my 12 to 32mm lens on here, I'm off again. My 12 to 32mm 3.5 to 5.6, it's the same sort of size, but when you push it out, it suddenly pops out to about there. So this thing, that's as big as it gets. It doesn't go any bigger than this. Doesn't matter what you do with the focus, it doesn't zoom. It's a really good focal length to use, the 14, which is equivalent on full frame to 28mm, so it's quite a wide lens. And I had an absolute ball. Video-wise, don't even think about it. It's got no mic input on. The video's not too bad, actually. The video quality isn't too bad at all on HD, but that's not what I got it for. It's got a handy little flash in. Yay! Noisy little flash. But that's handy just for a little bit of fill-in if you wanted to. So if I... No, I can't get it to work. Never mind. Oh, there we are. So that's it. So the flash works on it. Handy little bit of fill-in flash if you want it. Not the fastest camera, but you know what? It's great. 16 megapixels, so it's not the smallest megapixel count in the Lumix range. A couple of microphones. It's still actually got stereo recording with the microphones on top. So I don't know what it's like quality-wise. I might actually just record a little bit of video in a few minutes and tag it on the end. I'll record a little bit like I'm doing in here, just on the 14mm lens, and see what it turns out like. If it's any good, I'll stick it on the end. If it's no good, I might chicken out of it. It'll probably be a bit zoomed in compared to this. But this is what I've been doing. I've been enjoying myself with this, and I will do a little video in the next day or so, just showing you the results. Just fun photos, just a little bit playing around, different angles, getting up close, bit of abstract stuff, just in time, just for the fun of taking photos. So, until the next time, thanks very much for watching this video. Thanks very much again, as I say, to all the people who've donated their comments and the time on the previous couple of videos to give me some advice. I really do appreciate it. I might not always seem as if I appreciate it, but the genuine people who are the genuine subscribers, I really do appreciate every bit of input you put into this channel. Thanks once again as well to my patrons on Patreon channel. If you'd like to become a patron of the channel and help us along a little bit, there's just a couple of groups to join, 2 different levels, and there's a link down below if you want to. And these wonderful people here are my patrons at the moment, so thank you to all of you. But if you'd just like to give me a one-off support, then there's a link in the description below where you can do me a PayPal and buy me a cup of coffee, which will help towards the channel. But till the next time, this is Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy saying, keep on taking your camera out, keep on taking your photos, and keep on having fun with your photos. Bye bye. Well, this is a test of the GX1. I don't know what it's going to sound like or look like. I can't even see the screen because the screen's run behind. It doesn't have a flip-out screen on this. But this is a GX1 with the 14mm f2.5 at f2.5 and on auto ISO, and I'm going to see what it's like in comparison. If it's any good, it'll be on the end of the video you've just been watching. See you.